try to go quickly through about 10 more verses. So verse 44, by acting in this way, all will be done well. But by acting otherwise, neither action will be done. Likewise, there will be no increase in the proximate disturbing conceptions that come from lack of alertness. So he's saying, above he was talking about just doing, focusing on whatever you're doing at that time. Right? Focusing on whatever task you're undertaking. So he's saying in this way, by acting in this way, all will be done well. But by acting otherwise, so by trying to do many things at once and not really giving them any of them proper attention, then neither action, neither thing you're doing will be done well. Likewise, likewise, if you keep your attention focused well, there will be no increase in the proximate disturbing conceptions. So the other disturbing conceptions, they won't arise because you're keeping your attention focused in a wholesome way. That come from lack of awareness. And then verse 45. If I happen to be present while a senseless conversation is taking place, or if I happen to see some kind of spectacular show, I should abandon attachment towards it. Right? So this often happens, no? We're present, when other people are talking about something totally senseless, totally meaningless. So he's just saying, just don't get involved. Don't get too attached to either side. Just kind of remain neutral and observe, but don't get too caught up in it. Or if you see some kind of spectacular show, in Shantideva's time there wasn't like computers and internet and TV and stuff. But so there would be like carnivals and things like that. But he's saying something. If you see something very exciting or going on, don't generate attachment towards it. Don't have these attachment. Always means you have unrealistic expectation that things are going to satisfy you, that something's going to please you, to bring happiness to you. So attachment always comes with an unrealistic expectation that the object of your attachment is going to bring you lasting satisfaction and enjoyment. So he's saying don't place this kind of unrealistic expectation on things. Just kind of, don't get involved. Don't get too involved. So again, 45, if I happen to be present while a senseless conversation is taking place, or if I happen to see some kind of spectacular show, I should abandon attachment towards it. 46, if for no reason I start digging the earth, picking at the grass, or drawing patterns on the ground, then by recalling the advice of the Buddhas, I should immediately stop out of fear. So that was a little difficult. Sometimes you see this, if you're sitting on the ground, you just start picking at the ground, picking with something, playing with something. I do it all the time. You see the monks' special kind of distraction. I don't know if it's a mala. Is there a mala? It's called a mala. Rosary. So you see oftentimes the monks will sit and just playing. They're not saying mantras, they're just playing with the beads. That's our habitual thing. So like that, if you see you're just kind of mindlessly like playing with something with your hands, it's a kind of distraction. It's very minor, but it's a symptom of like not fully focusing your attention on whatever you're doing. So if for no reason I start digging the earth, picking at the grass, or drawing patterns on the ground, then by recalling the advice of the Buddhas, I should immediately stop out of fear. I'm not sure 100% what sure the advice he's talking about. I think he's just saying how the Buddhas say that if you get into a habit of mindlessly doing a lot of things, doing different things, it can lead you into afflictive emotions, increasing and then engaging in actions that are really harmful to others, or harmful to yourself. So out of the recognition of that, then try to generate better mindfulness in the present moment. Then 47. Whenever I have the desire to move my body or say something, first of all I should examine my mind, and then with steadiness act in the proper way. So that's kind of just repeating a little bit more clearly what was already said above. So let me explain that. In verse 48. Okay, so here from verse 48 is where he uses this refrain to remain like a piece of wood. So verse 48. Whenever there is attachment in my mind, and whenever there is desire to be angry, I should not do anything nor say anything, but remain like a piece of wood. Right? So, you can think like with attachment, an example is like, I've seen, I see. Well, as you can imagine, someone goes into like, they're thinking, oh, my car is quite old, it's kind of breaking down a lot, maybe I need a new one. And they go into an auto showroom without doing any research. They just go into a showroom and they see a car that looks really good and think, okay, I'll buy that one. Just see the first one that looks really good without really thinking carefully about it. Just out of attachment to the, oh, it looks so good, I'm going to look great driving that car. It's going to be, just a lot of projections about how nice that car's going to be, and then buy it. And then later on they realize, they paid way too much. It doesn't have a lot of features they want. It doesn't have good reviews. It's hard to get it serviced. All kinds of things about it. So that's an example of just following attachment and just doing something without thinking carefully about it. Also, it works like that in relationships, with people or with money, all kinds of things. So whenever there's attachment in my mind, so if we practice being aware of what's happening in our mind, then we can identify when attachment is arising, to see that we have attachment, and recognize how it distorts our perspective of things, right? And then use wisdom to counteract that distortion. So similarly, and whenever there is desire to be angry, like we see someone, they're doing something that's quite annoying, irritating to us, and we kind of start getting angry at the person, then recognize that, right? And think, okay, but if I say something, like you're at a family reunion and you meet some cousin or uncle who's just kind of, just says things that are annoying to you, and you see, you're talking to that person and you see like, yeah, I'm starting to get upset. Instead of like getting angry and just kind of blowing up at them, which is going to have long repercussions later on, and are hurtful to that person, and also, it's causes kind of friction in the family, and you won't like to see, anyway, it'll destroy whatever relationship you will have that person. So recognizing that you have anger arising, then just don't say anything. Go excuse yourself. Say, I have to go to the bathroom, I have to go listen to you, or ask someone else to come over and talk. Somehow, like, don't act out of the anger. So this is again like what I was saying above, what Shantideva was saying above. When you see afflictive emotions arising in the mind, don't act out of them, but rather just remain like a piece of wood. So again, here, remain like a piece of wood means don't. There's different ways to read this advice. I think the more common interpretation is that remain like a piece of wood and like just be still. Just like hold your tongue, don't act. But another kind of interpretation is like if you imagine like you're talking to that person and you were a piece of wood, it wouldn't affect you, whatever. It's just like it'd just be sounds bouncing off you. It wouldn't affect you. So another interpretation is to think like, oh, if I was a piece of wood, I wouldn't be attached to this, or I wouldn't be upset at that. It would just be like neutral. So that can kind of help you see how so much of our perception is a projection of our mind. When we already don't like somebody, then when they say something or do something, it's like we cause it to feed into our distorted image, our distorted negative image of them, and just increase that negative image. This is kind of like you see it in media a lot. Anyway, we all have biases, basically. So recognizing that. So thinking about if I was like a piece of wood, how would this be? It can help you have a more objective kind of perspective, and reduce your kind of distorted way of perceiving things.
But sometimes it can increase the amount of trouble they cause.
If you just
keep quiet and
if you just don't, that's true. Sometimes you have to stand up and kind of stop things before they escalate. That's true. Okay, verse 49. Whenever I have distracted thoughts, the wish to verbally belittle others, feelings of self-importance or self-satisfaction, when I have the intention to describe the faults of others, pretension, and the thought to deceive others. And then 50. Whenever I am eager for praise, or have the desire to blame others, when I have the wish to speak harshly and cause disputes, at all such times I should remain like a piece of wood. So he's describing this list of many, many different kind of, afflictive emotions, many disturbed states of mind or unwholesome states of mind that are kind of malevolent saying in all those cases. So it's good, like, you know, if you want to, if you want to do, use this as a basis for meditation practice, like all these verses, every verse in here can be used as a basis for your meditation. Right? So if you want to meditate on this at home, then basically, you know, say you're going to meditate 20 minutes, then maybe for, you know, first get comfortable in your posture, generate a positive motivation. You know, why am I doing this? Have a positive reason. And if you want to go for refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha or whatever, and then look, you know, read a couple verses, and then just set it down, and then try to think about the meaning. Actually, I should include also. It's good to spend a few minutes just doing placement meditation, just simply watching your breath or another object to generate some kind of calm and mental focus, and then read a couple of verses, and then think about the meaning, right? And then at the end, meditate. So like for this verse 49 and 50, there's so much to think about. You know, you could spend probably 2 weeks just on those two verses. So from verse 49 it says, whenever I have distracted thoughts, what do you think about? What kind of distracted thoughts do I have? When am I most distracted? When am I least distracted? When I have distracted thoughts, what kind of things do I tend to think about and why? You can analyze all of them. Whenever I have distracted thoughts, the wish to verbally belittle others. So then what is that? Do I do that or not? You know, in your meditation, do I verbally belittle others? Who? If I do, who? Or when? Or why? In the past, have I verbally belittled others? Was that, you know, was it appropriate in that situation? Not appropriate? So all this is all kind of meditation. So if we don't, you know, if we don't spend some time identifying whether we do these behaviors or have the thought to do these things in our mind, then when the thought arises, we won't see it, and we'll have already acted on it before we even saw we had the thought. So if we spend time thinking about, you know, our past behavior and, you know, did I ever verbally belittle someone else in the past? You know, even when I was a child, when I was in high school, when I was in college, and then think, well, you know, why did I do that? What are the thoughts that preceded me doing that? What happened? What were the outcomes of that action? Then, if we think about it carefully, then in the future, when the thought to do that arises, we'll notice it more quickly, and we can deal with it when it's just a thought before we've acted on it, right? And decide, oh, is this something I want to do or not do? And then that way we can modify our behavior. But if we never take the time to think about those things we've done in the past and think about how it's related to what's going on in our mind, then we never really get much control over our actions. So if I see the wish to verbally belittle others, the wish, right? If I see the wish to verbally belittle others, or I see feelings of self-importance, you know, I'm so important, these other people don't matter, get out of my way, like that. Then, or self-satisfaction, you know, think this kind of arrogant, inflated sense of self. Or when I have the intention to describe the faults of others. Right? So when you see that thought arising, to a third person, talk about the faults of someone else. We do this all the time. It's a very common way of, on one hand, it's a way of bonding with the other person, right? If both of us, if you and I, we talk about the faults of someone else here, we feel closer, right? And we feel better. It feels nice. But actually, it's very destructive. Then when we each see that third person, we'll feel a little bit like, a little bit ashamed, you know? And we'll be thinking about the faults. Like you probably all had it happen when you're planning to meet someone you've never met before, but you meet someone else who knows that person, and then they tell you all kinds of garbage about that person. Then when you meet that person, you're already thinking like, this person, not a good person, I already know, this other one told me, right? So then it already totally colors the way you see that person. You can't really meet them at, in an objective way. You can't really, it's harder just to give them the chance to show their positive side because you're already just thinking about these negative things you've heard about them. So in that way, that's the problem with this describing the faults of others, is it causes disharmony between people. So rather we should be mindful to use our speech to cause harmony between people. So how do we cause harmony between people? By talking about the positive things that we see about others. That it makes people feel closer. So then, feelings of self-importance, feelings of self-satisfaction. When I have the intention to describe the faults of others, And then when I have pretension and the thought to deceive others. So the thought to deceive others is like when I'm pretentious, when I feel pretentious. Again, it's kind of an arrogant, inflated sense of pride. So when I have that, when I have the thought to deceive others, and then in verse 50, when I'm eager for praise, also interesting, it's a whole different kind of afflictive emotion, like really craving praise. When I can see, if we're really eager for praise, we're craving other people to praise us, then we'll just do things to impress other people. It's like doing something just to impress others, without really having, a reason for doing it. I can't think of a concrete example right now. We all kind of do this sometimes.
Sometimes people give to a beggar just to show that they are generous, or they give to a charity.
Sometimes people give, really ostentatious giving, it even happens in the monastery. I remember a few years ago, it's common in the monastery, the monks study for 20, 25 years, then they get the final degree, and then they go to foreign countries. Some of them, they go to foreign countries like Australia, United States, Europe, and they teach. But this is one Geshe, I won't say which country he went, and he was in a foreign country teaching, and he got some very generous sponsors. So he made this huge offering, a lot of money he offered to the monastery, like 60 lakh or something at once. It's a big money offering he made to the monastery. But most people, they make offering, and then the disciplinarian reads out a dedication during the puja. This Geshe, I don't know if it's his idea or whose idea it was, but they printed out a giant check, like on plastic, like a huge check. You know what they do in the West when they give a lottery? This never happened in the monastery before, but he printed out this giant check. It's longer than this. It's another 3 meters long, 1.5 meters high. And while the disciplinarian's reading out the dedication, some monks hold up the check in the middle of the assembly. Talk about wanting praise. There's always, when we go to school, there's always the person in class who just raised their hand to ask the teacher a question just so they can show off how smart they are, kind of thing. They don't really have a question, they just want to show off. So it's that kind of behavior. When I'm eager for praise, so at that time, remain like a piece of wood. Or I have the desire to blame others, right? When I made a mistake, but I don't want to be blamed myself, so I try to shift the blame onto others. Or I just blame others for something blindly without knowing if they really did it or not. So when I have the desire to blame others, remain like a piece of wood. Whenever I have the wish to speak harshly or cause disputes, like to speak harshly to someone, when you have the wish to do that, remain like a piece of wood. When you wish to speak in a way that it's just gonna cause a lot of consternation, upset people, just dispute, debate with them, and argue with them for the point of arguing, right? In order to upset them. Then at all such times, I should remain like a piece of wood. So at all such times, hold your tongue and just kind of think about, use wisdom to think about what is really the best way to act here. What is the appropriate way to act? It's beneficial for me, beneficial to others. Right? So in that way, generate that kind of mindfulness. Right. Then 51, whenever I have a desire, so he's going on in the same vein. When I have desire, whenever I desire material gain, honor or fame, whenever I seek attendance or a circle of friends, and when in my mind I wish to be served, at all these times I should remain like a piece of wood. So it's maybe going a little bit more subtle. Whenever I desire material gain. So I think this is more for maybe monks. Because the main audience for this teaching is a group of monks. So of course for monks, because we're supposed to live, we're supposed to sustain ourselves by begging, and not do anything for profit, for material gain. We're not allowed to give loans and take interest. And we're not supposed to buy and sell things. We're not supposed to accumulate wealth. Right? But I think for lay people, it's a little different. Of course, if you're going to, you're working a job, you're doing a job or doing business, you need to get some material gain because you have to support your family, you have to support yourself, you have to pay rent. Like monks, we don't have to pay rent, right? We just need food to eat and some, medicine or whatever. But if you're a lay person, then I think it's okay to do things for material gain. But if you're practicing Dharma, it's good to have whatever you're doing have a longer term goal than just material gain. Thinking I'm working in order to support myself and support my family so that they can be well and happy, and then so that I can provide myself and them also with opportunities to learn and to grow as a person. There can be more meaningful reasons for doing work than just material gain. Of course, we need some material gain, but there should be something more meaningful, more long-term goal that we have as well, right? Not just wealth. Whenever I desire material gain, or when I desire honor or fame, so this is just speaking about forms of attachment. Attachment to accumulating infinite amounts of wealth, attachment to having other people honor us, respect, to respect and kind of praise us and so forth, attachment to being famous. So all of these things, it's not bad to have some material wealth. It's not bad if other people honor us. It's not bad if we become really renowned. But if we put unrealistic expectations that my happiness comes through being famous. So the more famous I am, the more happy I will be. If I'm not famous, I can't be happy. Right? If other people don't honor me and treat me with respect, I can't be happy. If I don't have material wealth that I want, then I won't be happy. All of that kind of attachment to things, unrealistic expectation that material wealth, honor, and fame, that they will bring us happiness, just leads us into disappointment. So don't act out of those kind of worldly motivations. Then in the second line, whenever I seek attendance or a circle of friends, and whenever in my mind I wish to be served. All these, so this is kind of, we have to do a little bit of work interpreting this, because we need friends, right? Whenever I seek attendance, okay, so again, if you think about it in terms of being a monk, it makes a lot more sense, like for monks. Like if as a monk, I do things so that other people will be my attendants, will carry my bag and walk behind me and pay my bills and all those things, and wash my dishes. And rather, as a spiritual practitioner, we should always be humble and kind of and be willing to do everything for ourselves that we need to do for ourselves, independent. We should be humble and independent and not reliant on others, and not wanting others to serve us and wait on us hand and foot. So if I do things in order to get a circle of followers, right, then it becomes a worldly motivation. It's just attachment to having people serve me. Right? It's another kind of attachment to having people serve me. So like that. Although at such times I should remain like a piece of wood. Then 52. Whenever I have the wish to decrease or stop working for others, and the desire to pursue my welfare alone, if motivated by such thoughts, a wish to say something occurs, at these times I should remain like a piece of wood. Okay? So again, whenever I have the wish to decrease or stop working for others. So, this is, again, it's in the context of a person who's taken the Bodhisattva vows. A person who's practicing, doing spiritual practice with this aspiration to achieve full enlightenment for the benefit of others. So then they've already decided, I'm going to devote my life to serving others, to working for the welfare of other sentient beings. And then, sometimes it becomes difficult, right? So then, if they see that they have the wish to stop working for the welfare of others, or decrease their working for the welfare of others, and pursue their own welfare alone, without caring about others, at such times, then it should remain like a piece of wood. So it's kind of like, you could imagine in your family, like, if your parents are very old and kind of senile, and you're living with them and you're caring for them. Sometimes naturally they'll say things or do things that upset you, and you feel like, I'm going to leave it. I'll just leave them here and forget about it. I'm going to do my own thing. Then those times you say remain like a piece of wood, right? Or you're a parent and you have children, and sometimes the children are doing things that are upsetting you, and you feel like, I've had enough of this. What can I do? Maybe I'll send them off to a foster home or something. I don't know. At those times, then also, don't act out of that selfish attitude. Of course, sometimes we feel selfish, but But it's saying recognize the faults of that self-centered attitude and don't act out of it. So in that way, don't decrease or stop working for the welfare of others. In those times, just practice patience. And then 53, whenever I have impatience, laziness, cowardice, shamelessness, or the desire to talk nonsense, if thoughts of partiality arise, at these times too, I should remain like a piece of wood. Okay, so there's so much to meditate on here, no? Whenever I have impatience, so when I feel I'm becoming impatient with someone, practice patience, remain like a piece of wood. When I feel laziness, so how does this work? If we feel laziness and remain like a piece of wood, that's not going to help. I'm not sure how that's going to help, right? So, when you feel laziness about doing something, I'm not sure. I think here the meaning is like, don't just follow that thought of laziness, but rather you should try to generate some enthusiasm, right? Try to encourage yourself to do something productive rather than just not do anything at all. So, laziness, cowardice. When I feel cowardice, again, how does that work? I'm not sure. When you feel afraid to do something, I think again it's, I should remain like a piece of wood. Because you're already, I mean, if you're afraid to do something, you're probably going to remain like a piece of wood. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. You have to deal with the cowardice, basically. I'm not sure. Shamelessness. So shamelessness works, right? If you feel totally shameless, like I don't care what anybody thinks at all. I mean, sometimes that's a good trick, like to not care what others think. But sometimes, if you're doing something that you know is like bad, basically, and you just don't care, then it's you know, like, I don't know, like smoking, for example. You know, when you're a teenager and your parents tell you don't smoke, but then one day you're just like, I don't care, I'm just going to come home and just sit on the couch and smoke anyway. You know, then it's like, and that thought arises, you should say, oh no, that's going to upset my parents a lot, and then don't follow that. You know? So that kind of thing. If there's shamelessness for doing something that is really going to upset other people or harm other people, then remain like a piece of wood. Or the desire to talk nonsense. So this we do all the time. Right? So if you feel the desire just to talk about nonsense, this and that, totally senseless things, then don't follow that. Remain like a piece of wood. If thoughts of partiality arise. So this is, a little subtle. Partiality, I think it means, you know, being biased towards one person and against another person. Instead of being impartial and fair, equally, you know, considering others, that you're partial, you know. Like if you have two students, and one of them you like a lot, and the other one you don't like them very much, then, you know, as a teacher, if you act on that, then it's really harmful to the person the student that you don't like. It might be helpful to the student that you like a lot, but the student that you don't like, they'll feel like, oh, the teacher doesn't care about me. They don't think anything. They don't think I can really learn, and so you'll harm the self-confidence of that student. Right? So that's like an example of a position where, as a teacher, you know, have a classroom full of students. Yeah, you might like some and dislike others, but you have to hide that as much as you can and try to be impartial. Not only hide that, but in your own mind, you have to really generate equal concern for all students. So when you see thoughts of partiality arise, at these times too, I should remain like a piece of wood. And then verse 54, having in this way examined their minds for disturbing conceptions and for thoughts that strive for meaningless things, the courageous bodhisattvas should hold their minds steady through the application of remedial forces. So this is kind of a summary verse of all that's gone before. And we'll stop with this verse. So again it says, having in this way examined their minds for disturbing conceptions. So in those, from verse 49 down, he's listed like how many? More than 20 different kinds of disturbing conceptions. Right? So bodhisattvas, having examined their mind to see if any of those kind of disturbing conceptions are arising or not. Having in this way examined their minds for disturbing conceptions and for thoughts that strive for meaningless things. Right? For thoughts that strive to do things that are just meaningless. It's not going to contribute towards my own long-term well-being or anything, you know, worthwhile, useful. Right? So it's important in life to have short-term goals, but also have long-term goals, and especially in spiritual practice, to have long-term goals that even extend beyond, much beyond ourselves, and much beyond even this life. Right? So if we have very clear in our mind what our long-term goals are, then it's important to be mindful that everything I'm doing is contributing towards that goal, and not at least not like making me counteracting that goal. So at least not making me more farther away from my long-term goals. Right? So thereby everything becomes meaningful. In this way it's extremely, in this way it's very helpful to think about death. Thinking about our own impermanence. How we're changing moment by moment, we're aging moment by moment. Every moment we're coming closer to our death, that this life won't last forever. Eventually we'll all die. Thinking about death is actually one of the most quickest and easiest ways to see, like, okay, well, if I'm going to die like tomorrow, or if I'm going to die 6 months from now, like, what would I do in this 6 months? That, what is the one thing in my life that I would not want to die having left undone? So it's a very useful technique to sort of distill down, like, what is most important to you in your life. Think about, well, eventually I'm going to die, so what are the things that I will make sure that I gave proper attention to, that I focused my energy on before that comes? Because for all of us, death could come at any time. It's not like we all want to live to be 81 years old. It's just not, we look around us. Maybe all of us here will fortunately be, but not likely actually. So sometimes it's good to look at like obituaries and see like how people die at all different ages. Just recently I was looking at this center is part of an international Dharma organization called the FBMT, is the acronym. But they publish a newsletter every 6 months now. So at the end, there's quite a lot of obituaries about people from different centers all over the world. So recently I was looking through, I'm 45 now. I think I found like 3 or 4 people that were like 45, 46, 47. But usually I also think, oh, I'm very healthy, I'll live a long time. But then you see like, this person got cancer, this person, this happened, this person, this happened. Then it causes you to pause and think, like, am I, today, like, what have I done with my time today? Am I really using this day, this year, in a meaningful way? So thinking about death can help to clarify, like, what's meaningful to you, and then that can help to make sure that you use your body, speech, and mind in a meaningful way, rather than, as this line says, giving, I guess, thoughts that strive for meaningless things, right? Rather than following thoughts that strive for meaningless things. Then the last 2 lines. The courageous bodhisattva should hold their minds steady through the application of remedial forces. The remedial forces means when you see different disturbing emotions arise in the mind, then gradually we can learn what antidotes, what different ways of thinking to counteract it. Like, for example, I was mentioned earlier about how we're going to meet someone, but we meet some that we never met before, and we meet someone else who knows that person and tell us all kind of garbage things about that person. Then if we don't check ourselves, we can easily have our mind full of just negative thoughts about that person before we even meet them. So if we're mindful of that kind of, it's got kind of afflictive emotion, then we can apply antidotes and think, well, maybe when this third person met them, that person was in a bad mood, and so this third person just got a bad impression of them. Or maybe this third person was mistreating that person, so then they saw the worst side of them. Or everybody sees people in different ways, so who knows? Maybe that person's changed. Maybe it's been several years since that third person met them, so maybe they've changed now. So you can use different ways to try to bring your, counteract this kind of negative view, bring them back to a neutral view, and then just meet the person without sort of partiality. So that's just an example of an antidote. Basically, for every different kind of afflictive emotion that arises in the mind, because the nature of afflictive emotions is that they're distortions. They're incorrect in the way that they perceive their object. So they don't have a valid basis. So always, if you use logic and reasoning, you can always find a way to counteract them. So for the different afflictive emotions, there are different antidotes. For example, generally we feel a lot of anger towards someone. then antidote to that, one is just being patience, generating patience, to which there's a whole set of techniques how to generate patience. Another antidote for anger is loving kindness, just to generate the attitude towards a person, may they be well, may they be happy. Even if, I think what they're doing is wrong, I think that behaving in a totally unforgivable kind of way, unjustifiable way, but still, may they be well, may they be happy. Just generate that attitude, loving kindness. Because they're human beings, they want happiness like me, so may they be happy. Even if I don't have to know how that's going to happen, or if my thinking is going to help, but for my own peace of mind, just generate that attitude. So these are things we can learn. We learn about all the, just like now I went through and described all these kind of different groups of emotions in a very rough way. Then we can also learn about the remedial forces or antidotes to the different groups of emotions. So then we apply that knowledge, we apply it to our own mind. When we see afflictive emotions arise, we identify it, and then we think, what are the different ways I would think to balance or reduce that afflictive way of thinking. Okay, so this is where I want to stop for today, in the verse 54. So if there are any questions, I can try to answer any questions you might have now.
We are meditating, we get different types of thoughts. How do we respond to these thoughts?
How do we respond to the thoughts? So maybe you can't hear it. Please, his question is, when we're meditating, we have different kinds of thoughts arise. How do we respond to those thoughts? Well, I mean, there's different ways. And I mean, there's different kinds of thoughts. So basically, we can divide all the different kinds of meditation we do, we can divide into two types. One is placement meditation. It's called placement meditation. It's more like shamatha, where we're simply keeping our attention focused on one object. For example, we're watching our breath, and the only thing we're doing is trying to keep our attention focused on our breath, just simply watch the breath. So in that kind of situation, when you see thoughts arise, you just let them go. You can use different analogies, like think of the thoughts are like birds flying to the sky, or like clouds drifting to the sky. That they come, but you just don't engage with them, and then they go away. Just let them go. Or you can think of your mind as like a space, and the thoughts are like arrows going through space. The arrows don't disturb the space at all; they just pass through it without any friction, contact. Right? So just as the thoughts go, just let them go, and put your attention back on the breath. Okay? So, and whatever thoughts they are, you can. I mean, another technique is to label the thoughts. If it's you can label like, oh, I'm thinking about the past. Then let it go. Bring your attention back to the object of meditation. Okay? Or you might be thinking about the future, or you might have fear arising. Just notice, label. Okay, fear is arising. Okay, and then let it go. Bring your attention back to the breath. So basically, when you're doing this kind of meditation, placement meditation, any thought that arises, basically you let it go. Although you could have the thought arise like, oh, I feel very excited, right? So then you might make note to try to just kind of bring your kind of level of energy down a little bit. Or you might do placement meditation and still I feel very sleepy, sluggish. Then you might need to do something to raise your energy level up. So those two kind of thoughts, they're more related to what you're doing. So you need to pay more attention. But then there's another kind of meditation, analytical meditation, which is mostly what we do in this tradition. So in analytical meditation, generally, oftentimes you're actually thinking about something. Like when I was saying, you can take, I was saying in relation to verse 49, 50, actually all these verses, you can take like verses of this book and then use that as a basis for meditation. So in that case, then you read one verse and then think about it. So all the thoughts that are somehow related to that topic that you're thinking about as the focus for that analytical meditation, those thoughts are all fine. You don't need to, you can engage with them. Right? like for example, if I was thinking in one meditation, thinking about the wish to verbally belittle others. When we have the wish to verbally belittle others, have I done that in the past? When have I done that? Why have I done that? Who have I done that to? What are the thoughts that preceded it? What were the outcomes? So any of the thoughts related to like verbally belittling others in that case, they're fun. And the more you have, the better, actually. So that's analytical meditation is a process of thinking. But then but in that context, if you have thoughts that are totally unrelated, like, where am I going to go on vacation like next winter, or I wonder what my sister's doing now, or something, then those are distracting. Those are distractions. It's just unrelated. It's distracting. So then you just let them go and come back. So, yeah. Is that clear? Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, Abba?
May I ask you a question about a verse which we haven't yet read?
Sure. The verse that we haven't yet read?
Yes, we haven't yet come.
Sure.
It is verse 89. I don't quite understand what he's trying to say.
Maybe we'll come to it later.
All right.
Yeah, I don't want to take the time to. Maybe afterwards I can just.
Okay.
Yeah.
So remain like a piece of wood means hold your mind steady and decide the correct action to be taken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of means don't just blurt out and do something kind of impulsively based on an affective emotion. But rather, keep your mind steady. I mean, in the immediate moment, it just means don't kind of blurt out anything. Just be quiet. But it more means like keep your mind steady and use wisdom to check. Instead of just blindly following your impulses, use wisdom to check, what's the best way to act in this moment? Like that. Of course, a piece of wood doesn't do that, but the steadiness part is what the analogy is for.
Maybe Zen uses it a lot.
Can many of them like desire to be angry? I mean, nobody has a desire to be angry, but it's finding that precise moment, that realizing that you're getting angry is...
Yeah, that's true. Desire to be angry is probably a poor translation of that. So that it kind of means like you're about to get angry. You feel yourself starting to get angry.
Or wish to belittle, and again, nobody has a wish to belittle someone. But
Well, sometimes they do, I think. Yeah, yes.
So, I'm giving up this. So we are actually we have a desire to earn more money. Okay? So
We have a desire to what?
to earn more money.
To have more money, yes.
Yes. So there are a lot of opportunities are there. So the desire maybe it is just for self-satisfaction. I can buy a home, I can buy so those many things, and I can even pay my bills. Other thing is, actually, if I do this particular job, it will be beneficial for others. Okay, but financially I may not be able to achieve whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And so in that aspect, so one is morely self-centered, other one is related to maybe it is beneficial for more other person, but it may also affect my financial growth.
Yeah.
So how to see this? Whether I should think about if I earn more money later on, I can spend for good activities. Also, I can satisfy myself desires, or else I just go with this path.
I don't think there's no like black and white kind of yes or no answer. It's quite a complex issue. Actually, there's a kind of movement and a website I was just kind of learning about a little bit recently called effective altruism. Effective altruism. Kind of started by this young British philosopher, McGill or something like that. Anyway, but they address this kind of issue, like because they give recommendations for people who want to use their career, young people who are looking at different careers to kind of embark on. Then and they really want to do something to benefit the world. There's this question: do you do something that you don't make any money, but you can like help people in some impoverished area, or you do something to make a lot of money, and then you can use that to help others? I mean, their kind of summary answer was, you could help a lot. You could help a lot more people if you made a ton of money. Right? You should go into like investment banking, make a lot of money, and then give a lot of money to these charitable organizations who specialize in helping people. If you, as one person, because there's very few people who would do that. As one person, if you devote your life to living like in an impoverished area, you can only do so much. You can only affect so many people. But if you have a ton of money and you pay a lot of people to do that, you can have a lot more people doing the same thing. Like if I were to go to some small like rural village and just teach for the rest of my life, yeah, I could teach every year maybe 30 students and like that. But if I were to make like millions of dollars and then hire 30 teachers for their whole life, then I can affect so many more. So that's, and I'm not saying this is not Buddhist. This is not Buddhism. This is just like this is what this effective altruism is saying. More a Buddhist view is more like, and I'm not saying I disagree with that what they're saying, but the Buddhist view is more looking at the motivation. What is the motivation? Right? That's the main thing. So if at first when you start to ask your question, it looked like you're saying, well, should I go into a job that makes a lot more money with the motivation just to have a good house and a good car and good clothes and be able to provide well for my family? If the motivation is limited to that, and then on the other hand, well, or should I do a job that's more directly beneficial to people, but I don't make as much money? Definitely the second is a much more pure motivation, because you're really concerned more about benefiting people, right? So that's a better motivation, so it's probably better to follow that motivation in that case. But it doesn't mean, but you could have the same motivation to benefit others and still make this choice between making less money and making more money, right? Or in the long term, doing something that's beneficial to others. So I think even if you do a job that immediately it doesn't look like it's really benefiting many people, but it's enabling you to acquire wealth and influence and power, then in the long term you really have the pure motivation to benefit a lot of others, then it's not less at all. It depends on the motivation. Is the motivation for what and how pure is it? Yeah. So like that. Maybe shall we stop here? Read some dedication first. And then stop there. Let's look on page 235. Page 235. Do the prayers there. So first think about all the merit we've created, all the positive energy we've created, the positive karma, the virtuous karma we've created since we set out to come to the session today with a good motivation, and rejoice. So rejoice in your own positive energy and that created by others. Think how excellent it is, how wonderful it is. And then think of all the wholesome, good activities done by countless other sentient beings, our family, friends, strangers, even those who irritate and annoy us. Think of all the virtuous things they've done in the past, that they might do in the future, or that they're doing in the present. And rejoice. And then think of all the holy beings, all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and other devas, other highly realized spiritual beings, and all the virtues that they've created in the past, they've created in the present, they've created in the future. Islanders, especially your own spiritual teachers, as well as Dalai Lama, others. Rejoice in all their virtue. So then amassing this great collection of merit, and you can imagine amass together and then dedicate these verses. So we can read together on page 235. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of the Guru Buddha, and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel, Bodhicitta, that has not arisen, arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Just as the brave one Geshe and Samantha too realized these of power, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtues with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones that spawned in 3 times, so I might inform good works. I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of perfect joy, those on droplets. So then also we dedicate for everywhere in the world, may there be peace, where there's war and violent conflict, especially in the Middle East. May there be peace, especially in Syria, India, other places. May there be peace between all warring factions. May everybody suffering from domestic abuse, domestic violence, be free from it. May there be an end to human trafficking everywhere. Everyone who's oppressed or enslaved will be free from that situation. All those who are sick and ill, may they quickly recover from their illness or be free of discomfort and disease. All those who have recently died and passed away, may they quickly take the best possible rebirth in which they can continue whatever spiritual path is most suited to. May all the lonely have friendship. All the sick have medical care. May all those who are mentally ill, especially severely mentally ill, may they have a good care. May the hungry have food and nourishment. And everywhere in the world, may people be free from natural disasters like earthquakes, tsunamis, typhoons. May all the elements be in balance. And all crops be prosperous, bountiful. In short, may everyone's virtuous intention everywhere be fulfilled. Then bring to mind any other causes or particular individuals you'd like us to pray for. Just bring them to mind. So may all of those wholesome prayers also be fulfilled exactly in the words of the wishes. Okay, so we'll stop there. Thank you all.